Another pretty offering from Streabbog's Opus 63. Obviously, the Seaside part of it is reflected in these rising figures that have a little curl at the top, almost like waves by the seashore. One can't help but wonder about that little shift to minor in the interior section, though. Ever been on a beach that was calm and sunny one second and then cold and cloudy the next? We can only guess at Streabbog's inspiration. In any case, whether or not you want to use that inspiration to help you realize the expressivity of this piece is up to you. I'd recommend it myself. I find a little programmatic inspiration can be generally useful. We'll of course talk more about that when we get there. This piece is in 4/4, has a tempo of allegro moderato, moderately fast, and has a key or scale signature of 1 flat. In this case, placing us in the darkest of white note major keys, F major. Darkest because it's the only white note scale that uses A flat, which harmonically pulls the scale sonority down towards the lower side of the harmonic spectrum, instead of pushing it up, as is the case when we use sharps. You'll also no doubt have already noticed this with pedal marking, which hopefully you've seen enough of at this point to understand. But just in case you don't, this is telling us to use a general pedal technique, lifting and depressing about once per measure on the first beat of the measure, or otherwise at every significant harmony change. As with other pieces like this one, the parentheses around the instruction indicates that it is publisher added, in this case by me. Finally, just notice the general texture of this piece. We pretty much stick with this left hand to right hand alternation of the figures, with a couple of variations in the specifics, a definite contrast in the interlude section at the top of the second page, and of course one nice long line at the end of that interlude to transition us back into the original material. But what we'll be focusing on most throughout this lesson is the expressive execution and how to keep track of things in this constantly moving texture. So let's dive in. So the trickiest thing about this piece is probably that last bit, keeping track of the movements of the notes, which in many cases only move by a small amount between the measures and don't follow a completely obvious pattern of movement. But for example, check out these first 3 measures. The right hand starts off playing A, C, G, and F, and then drops everything a step in the second measure, playing now G, B flat, F, and E. Now, you might hope that in measure 3, we just get another full drop of all those notes, giving us a nice, easily identifiable pattern of movement. But no, now we keep our G and B flat, but still drop the F and E to E and D. So, like I said, close to a consistent pattern, but not quite. And a lot of this piece works like this. So, what's the strategy here? Well, unfortunately, a certain amount of elbow grease is just a necessary part of it. You're going to have to put in some extra effort into memorizing the movements, or at least to learning them well enough to track them on the page. But fortunately, there are a lot of little trackable movements built into what's happening that you can follow. And here is where being able to mark on your page is really an advantage. So I'd recommend either you print the score and have a hard copy, or be able to mark up a PDF or image file, whatever is going to be easiest for you to make some marks on the page to help you visualize things. I'm going to demo what this might look like on these first 3 measures here. But what we're looking for are patterns and repetitions. So if something doesn't move, or if it moves more than once in the same way, that sort of thing. The trick here is to be unafraid of breaking up the figures themselves into different note groupings, but also to remember that the bigger you can keep your note groupings, the more valuable will be the pattern recognition. In other words, whittling things down to 1 note is going to help you less than finding a pattern with 2 or 3 or 4 notes. So looking at these first 3 measures, let's look at the left hand first. We start off with a rising F major harmony. Having some skills of chord identification, by the way, can also be very helpful for you here, though it's not the method we're going to focus on for this lesson. And then in measure 2, we shift to playing an A, B flat, C, and E. So fine, not really anything there that's very helpful, but look now between measures 2 and 3. They're the same. Now, that is valuable info. So we're going to go ahead and highlight that. Looking now at the right hand, we've already gone over how it all moves as a whole and kind of discovered that there's not very much there of great value. So let's break things up a bit to see if something stands out. So if we take the two top notes of the figures, you can see that we go from G and F to F and E to E and D, which is a perfect stepwise descent that we can easily draw a line through. And think of as a stepwise descending pattern. Now for the bottom part of that right-hand figure, the movement between the measures 1 and 2 is not really that helpful, but between 2 and 3, we get another repetition. The G and B flat stay G and B flat. And so if we can think of that repetition in addition to our falling upper line, that's another identified element to add to our compendium. And you'll notice now we have most of these three measures highlighted, what you're seeing on the screen here, meaning we've taken at least a majority of these tiny little things we had to learn and have compiled them into much bigger, easier to learn things. And this is a pretty essential practicing strategy that you should really aim to practice whenever you're working on something. Now, we're not going to go through the whole piece doing this. If you're playing music at this level, you're getting to the point at which you should be able to take ownership of your own practice and prep work. So at this point, I'll leave it to you to go through this piece and complete this process. I'll leave you with one final admonition here. If you go through this process I've just outlined, you'll learn this piece more efficiently. If you don't, you won't. People sometimes think they can get away with not doing things like this just because the instructor is not requiring it, just because I'm not there standing over your shoulder while you're practicing, telling you to do it. And while sometimes that's true, I will tell you that a lot of what I end up recommending to students for these kinds of challenges is exactly this: research, reveal, and record. The 3 R's. I'm going to copyright them and put them in a book. Thanks for watching this lesson from Liberty Park Music. If you enjoyed this lesson and learned something from it, do us a favor, hit that like button. And if you really liked it, share it around. Let your friends and family check it out too. If you want to find more lessons like this or explore other piano-related topics, please come visit us at libertyparkmusic.com. We have full piano courses ranging from beginner to more advanced levels, and everything is online and streaming 24/7 so that you can design your music learning around your schedule and learn in the comfort of your own home from a talented roster of professional teachers and musicians. Come check us out.